Welcome to RevCast, a Civilization podcast focused on its console platforms. Elthrasher, Duke Blue, 1987. As you can tell by his accent, Scotty is from Middle-earth.
Yeah, with all the hobbits. Yep. We're all short and hairy down here.
Welcome to episode number 28. I'm your lead co-host, elthrasher. With me, as always, ever since the last episode, is Duke Blue 1987, and we have a special guest, ScottieX from the 2K forums. Say hello, Scotty.
Hello.
I was reading through the Game of the Week thread in preparation and saw something that blew my mind. Kind of goes with getting a lot of cities and then popping the Ark.
Yep.
I think it was Kadera, actually, that made a post of how he got an extra great person through building Stonehenge, which was... I thought was pretty cool because I don't think Stonehenge has ever played any type of significant role in any multiplayer game.
Your advantage in Game of the Week is you can shut down the AI so badly, he'll never tick anything, basically. So,
I'm going to stop you there and correct you. I did have a multiplayer game once where Stonehenge mattered. Somebody built it, and then I got literacy the next turn and obsoleted it, and he quit. Go back to what we were talking about. Scotty's going to bring some new perspectives to the show. For one thing, Scotty's a PlayStation 3 owner. Mostly just had Xbox people on, not because of a specific preference, it's just how it's worked out. And also, Scotty is one of the masters of Game of the Week. Is that not so?
I guess so, yes. In all due modesty, yes.
Go ahead, brag a little bit about yourself. It's all right.
Since about January 2010, I've probably been the top of the board for most weeks. And that would be cross-platform Xbox and PlayStation if we did have a board that included both. So every now and then NutraSweet and Generic Toaster and Kadera getting the top spot. So I'm probably, in the modern era, the top Game of the Week domination player.
That Kadera's, he's got an amazing video on YouTube that I like to recommend to people. Do you post videos on YouTube?
No, I haven't had the recording devices to do it, unfortunately.
I don't either, otherwise I would. I can't hold that against you. As far as I can tell, you're one of the only Game of the Week regulars that is also pretty into multiplayer, too.
I mean, I understand that Vin's 4 over on the Xbox, he plays a reasonable amount of Game of the Week.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah, I've played him.
He doesn't come to the forums to chat with us very much. Liam Suddy plays a bit on the PS3 side. But because the start of the Game of the Week in Technology Econ Victories is quite similar to the Domination start, I can be quite competitive in some games. Like, for example, in the fastest game Kadera ever did on the Americans, I was right up there. That's only based on the fact that I had an incredibly good opening for the game.
Regardless of your victory condition, the way you deal with 3 of the AI civs, it's pretty much always going to be the same. You're going to take out 3 real fast.
Yep, that's right.
Then you'd go after the 4th, obviously, for Dominion and leave it alone.
Yeah. If he gets any settlers out, you take those settlers, and he stays down there on one city, hopefully on a little peninsula, not really getting in your way.
Right.
So can you take us through, I know each week is different, but maybe like an average start or maybe some tips for the first couple civs?
The first thing to do is you need to find out where all those name tiles are, where the huts are, and basically where all the other civs are. So I'll try and do that by having a decent whack at winning the game quickly.
Because the map doesn't change from time to time. Just to clarify, it's the same if you replay it over and over.
Yep. But in that first game, I'm not going to get a top time that'll be able to hold off someone like Kadira or Generic Toaster. It's going to be several games in before I can get a really good time. So in that first game, I'll expand out, find out where the guys are, and try and basically head towards the mass of the continent, try and find the first Civ as fast as I can, collect as much gold as I can on the way, and then settle right next to them and see if I can get a walk in, block some trees, get a warrior out there nice and quickly, and take his capital. And deity level, which is the one we almost always play on, it's absolutely critical to get that first capital because it's going to have great leader in it and barracks, and you'll be able to churn out march units. Got to get it across that map very quickly.
And the deity level for Game of the Week is different than it is for the standard single-player game, in that I am given to understand the AI does not actually get a production bonus in Game of the Week. It just starts with 2 techs, a barracks, and a great leader.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to get a production bonus. You can count their production and know when to hit them. Yep.
So it's basically like the King AI, except it starts with some extra stuff.
Yeah, which is pretty useful when you start taking the cities.
It's pretty useful for you.
It seems like once you get the first city, the other ones fall pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's why in the end you find that deity's probably just a little bit faster than Emperor, because if you've got that first city, you get across that map really fast.
You're trying to start off with a walk-in, and I do read those threads, even though I almost never actually play Game of the Week, but I'm interested in the techniques. And I know that you're typically going for a walk-in. Sometimes there's only one available, sometimes there are multiple ones available, and sometimes there are none available, but usually there's one, isn't there?
Well, usually I'd say there's one available, and a small percentage of the time there'll be 2.
Now, the other thing that I've observed reading those threads is that you all do some pretty ingenious things to get these walk-ins. Like when we're playing multiplayer, we do a lot of walk-ins, but it's basically like, that if you approach in 3700 or 3300, you can probably just walk right in. And if you can't help but meet the AI in 3500, it's basically not going to happen. You can wait for your horse army, you can try to do a warrior army or something like that, but we're not pressed for time the way you are. We are pressed for time, but not to the extent that you are, that we're trying to shave one turn off of a game. What are some of the techniques that you do for getting that walk-in maybe a little bit later than would normally happen?
Well, the complicating fact that we face is that on deity level they have bronze working and iron working, so they'll actually be building an archer in those first few turns. Basically, if you get there after 3600, you're going to be walking straight into an archer. You have to get there in those turns before. You're going to want to block their forest by building a city next to them, maybe popping a militar onto one of their forests or a caravan. In the last Game of the Week, pop a caravan and sit it on top of one of their forests, and you use that to buy yourself some extra time.
If you cover one forest, do they switch over to the other forest? Standard multiplayer, they'll switch over if you don't cover both.
Yep, they'll switch over, so you won't be able to cover both of them.
Okay.
But if your city's settled one square away from them, your city will take the one that they're not using, and then your caravan or militia can block the other one, buy you another turn, and that might give you some more time to actually pop that caravan into the city when you take it with the warrior, and then you can get yourself some extra gold, give you a good kickstart. On the lower levels, like where they don't have bronze working to start off with, then you'll be able to go and do all the usual things with them wandering out with their warrior and stepping around them.
Oh, right, because they don't even move that first archer out.
Yeah, no, the archer will sit there. When they're doing walkouts, when we're talking about walkouts, that's when they bring the settler out, and that means generally if you want to do it really early, you've got to give them 100 gold.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the recent game, if you've got a great leader and you've stolen him with a spy and you leave him next to the city, maybe they'll threaten you twice for 50 gold, or else they'll try and capture the great leader. Well, let them...
See, that's what's so amazing about Game of the Week to me, is that you do all these counterintuitive things, like, oh, I've got a caravan, and I can send it to the AI, and I'll get 50 gold, and it'll get 20 gold, and then I can sell it a tech for 30 gold. No, you don't want to do that. You want to leave the caravan in the AI's forest, and that way you can get the walk-in and get all your gold back. Or you want to make the AI threaten you twice for 50 gold twice by trying to steal its great leader back. I mean, that's that's just funny.
But straight after that, you're going to sell them back some tech that you've got probably. Maybe you've got navigation, sell that back to them, and then you'll take the city, and you'll get the vast majority of that 100 gold back anyway.
Right. So if you don't do any tricks to give them 100 gold or whatnot, when do they usually walk out? Is it pretty late?
Well, you can figure that out by trial and error. It'll probably be about 2,000 or so. Maybe sometimes it'll be 1,800 or 2,200, something like that. But you'll find out just by playing a game and then watching when their drops and when the population drops. depending on if they're building the settler or if they're doing it by 100 gold. Normally, I wouldn't want to have to wait till that because that time probably won't give me the best time I can do on a game of the week. I want to make them do that walkout, control it.
Mm-hmm.
Buying a tech off them is one of the good ways to do that. Usually they'll have some tech I can buy.
Yeah. They'll charge you some astronomical amount, like 70 gold or something like that for...
Pottery, yeah. 70 gold for pottery. And probably 30 and 25 for...
Another completely counterintuitive move to pay 70 gold for a tech you don't need at all.
So it seems like the first 10, 20 turns of the game really decide who is going to be at those top spots.
Yes, you've got to get those first few moves right. In fact, a lot of games will only go on for 12 turns or so you're going to have to get them right. I would expect in most Game of the Weeks I can win by around 2,100 or so probably BC, and that's by domination, and by non-dom maybe in about 600 or something AD.
How many tries does it take you to get your best time?
It depends on whether I'm going for perfect time or whether I'm just going for a good enough time. A perfect time is probably going to take a lot of playthroughs. I'm not sure, but maybe 30 or something playthroughs to get a perfect time. To get a time that's good enough to be the top of the leaderboard might be possible in maybe a dozen or so.
And to get a perfect time, from what I understand, a lot of it depends on the seeding, correct?
Yep, that's right.
I don't know much about how the seed works other than it kind of randomizes what actions the game will create for you.
It sort of sums up your actions on a turn, and then it uses that to generate what it's going to do on the next turn. If you've popped some huts on the previous turn, if you've done various actions like that, it'll use that to decide whether you're going to win a battle on the following turn, whether you're going to get a certain promotion, whether you're going to get any of the other things that it would randomly generate, like rewards from barbs and so forth.
The idea is that it's not rolling dice when you go into battle. It already rolled the dice.
Yep, that's right.
And it already knows what's going to happen. There's no way for you to find out what's going to happen until you do it.
In a multiplayer, you can't control all of the factors beforehand, but in Game of the Week, you can know that you've done everything the same as last time, which took you to get a Blitz upgrade, let's say, so you'll just repeat that exactly, and you'll make sure you get it the next time. And you don't do it if you got, like, a Gorilla upgrade.
I suppose that one's not often very useful.
No, we're never on the defense anyway, not that it helps in multiplayer either.
Yeah. I'm curious, do you keep a notebook, or do you just have a good memory for these kinds of things, or how do you remember your moves?
Normally, I don't like to keep a notebook. I like to just play free because I find it more fun that way.
Uh-huh.
But if I'm heading towards the end of a week and I really am trying for that perfect score, then I'm going to have to start writing things down, because if I make just a little error, all of a sudden the whole game falls apart, and it might have a lot of different steps in it. Even it might only be 15 turns, I need to get the couple of hundred moves that are going on in those 15 turns correct, or however many it is.
Right, because every little thing changes it. Like, you could sell a militia that was never going to do anything anyway.
You could get March instead of Guerrilla or something.
In that case, of the selling of a militia, your militia would have to have influenced the behavior of the AI, because just disbanding it isn't a seed-generating activity.
Oh, really? It's not? Okay.
But what it can do, like a militia might warn an AI that you're close, it might build an archer, and so the secondary effects can cause the seed to change. But definitely things like attacking something, getting some sort of promotion, all of these sort of effects are things that are going to matter.
After you take out those first couple civs, maybe one with a walk-in, maybe two on a good week, I would assume you're usually using either horses or legions to finish the job most weeks?
Yeah. Most of the time I tend to use horses, because for some civ you've got to get across the map very quickly, and that extra move is going to get you there earlier. But a third of the time, maybe a little less, I'll be using the legions, because I can use maybe galleons to transport the units, or I can get settlers out over close to the furthest enemy and then build a road and then travel across it and attack them off of that.
Do you ever find it useful to use any other units? Like, for example, maybe getting knights really early with England, or maybe even catapults with the Arabs?
Not particularly often catapults with the Arabs, but if England is one of the civs that you've either captured first, or if it's the civ that you are, then knights are definitely on the table. If there's SOC close by, you'll be thinking knights straight away.
Okay.
and go over there, get it to your 100 gold city, let's say, and all of a sudden you've got knight, and it's a free unit as well. So it's almost as if you've got a horse army straight off the bat.
You would just tweak the seed to make sure you would get a scientist from the school of Confucius.
That's right. And a scientist and a builder is quite good.
Yes, Samurai Castle.
Yep. That's what we got in the last game where we got England. I got a builder and a scientist, pop Samurai Castle and the knights, and then just charge across the map.
Does a leaderboard keep you in first position even though people come with the same time?
No. For some odd reason, the leaderboard likes to put me at the top. So,
all right.
so it's never bothered me. When Kadira posts a time and I post the same time, I'm ahead of them. If someone else posts a good time, I'm almost always ahead of them. So,
wow.
It might be, who knows what the reason is. Maybe it's reverse alphabetical.
Yeah, or it's your ID number or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you usually need to wait for an AI to walk out before you can finish the Dominion victory? How often do you need to use that tactic?
In most games, if I'm getting an optimal time, I won't be using walkouts, or at least not waiting for a walkout. It's better to just throw a bunch of legions at them at the end, maybe 3 legion armies or something. You've probably got enough gold to get those together at that stage and just beat up on that last city.
What's the toughest AI to take down?
You wouldn't want to be having Greece as your last civ with their pikeman armies up.
Yeah.
And, the English can be a bit of a problem too.
What about the Aztecs? Does that cause you any problems? Since if there's an army there, you can't wound it?
Yeah, the Aztecs can seem to be a problem too. In fact, it's been pretty rare that they've actually been the last civ that I've had to hit.
Uh-huh.
But yes, I imagine they might actually be even harder, because at least with the other guys you can just wear them down, get a little bit of luck with your first attack, and even though you know you're going to lose, you just sacrifice the first couple of guys. I've attacked an 8 defense archer with a warrior with 1 attack and knocked two of his archers off.
Nice.
And then straight after that, your other warriors can just army up and kill him. So
right.
You can get some good luck there.
I'm assuming a lot of times if it's close, you can kind of tweak the seed to make you win a battle, maybe like 9-12s. What's like a common against the odds battle that you usually tweak the seed to win?
Normally, if I have a 9-12, I'd have a go at it. If I have 9-15 or anything worse than 9-12, really, I'd probably just say, okay, let's try and find the seed that doesn't leave me sitting here all day trying to tweak the win. But if it's the other situation where I've got a bunch of warriors outside there, 3 warriors trying to do the 1-2-3, 1-2 warrior army attack, or 1-2-3 warrior army attack, then I'll have a little bit of a go with them because it's probably pretty early, and you can get a whole lot of battles in per attempt and find out what the seed is that seems to be getting the win. And then maybe you can flick through the seed a little bit by doing some other moves at the beginning and trying to refine that seed with a warrior with 1 attack managed to hit an archer down to 1 defense.
I imagine trying to tweak the seed on the last couple turns is a lot more time consuming since you have to run through the entire sequence of moves.
Yeah, getting close to the end, I'd normally not even bother doing that unless it's really essential to getting a top time. A perfect time, and I was chasing that. Like one game I was competing really hard with NutraSweet, and he did it all with legions, fighting his way through the whole map, and he must have done a lot of seed tweaking there, because instead I just did knights and charged through the map that way. So you can do it the hard way, but I like to do it the easy way.
When you're going for Dominion, do you have games where you're building a whole lot of armies and just pounding your way through leadership, engineer, loyalty, archer army on a hill or anything like that? Or is it mostly you're just trying to get there before they have all that set up?
Mostly you need to get there before they've got their defences set up. And on almost all maps there's an opportunity to get there before they have archer armies up. Some little trick for doing that, like in some games you can actually encourage the AI to build legions as opposed to archers. My theory is that if you've got maybe a caravan or something as your closest unit to them, that they know about it, they don't know about your actual military units a bit further back, think of building legions or tend towards building legions to go out there and have a go at you. So if you can trick them into thinking that, you may actually get they might build 2 archers and then start building some legions. And if they do that, well, when your horse army comes in and attacks them, you can kill the first archer, they don't get to build the archer army, and it's all over.
Right. What about an early declaration of war before you're actually ready to attack? Does that influence them to build more legions than archers?
It definitely changes their behaviour to have your early declaration of war. It's hard to predict exactly what they do, but I think they'll probably tend to build more legions that way if they think that they can have a go at you. If they've seen your horse army, then probably it'll be archers.
Right. If you show them a bunch of units, then they'll probably build archers. Yeah, we find the same in multiplayer, too, that sometimes if there's a distant AI that you want to rush, but you can't rush it yet, just declare war and it'll build warriors.
Yeah, so you never have to face an archer. You might have to kill 7 warriors, but... Do you want to talk a little bit about the other domination victories? I'm sure you're much better at them than I am.
What's your favorite non-dom?
I go econ mostly because it's nice and linear. You charge off to get the money tax. If you've got a GS, you know that you'll probably be using it for something like industrialization, and you don't need to worry about saving it for the space flight, electronics, and all that sort of thing later on. One of the key things is remembering that you can get tax from popping those huts. If you've got a bit of luck, and you want to have text set to the right things when you pop them, hopefully pop industrialization from one of them, which is quite good.
I would think a big difference between non-dom and dom victory is in dom you probably don't build near as many cities.
Probably don't build any cities.
Maybe 1 or 2.
Well, in dom you've got your first city and your 100 gold city, and that's probably building a road just to get some troops over close to one of the other capitals. There are some games where there might be a third or so city. Maybe you've got Code of Laws for some reason and you've popped another city and got them close to the another AI. But in general, it's 2 or 3, and with the non-doms, it's probably 40 to 50.
That seems like a lot.
Particularly if you're America. If you're America,
yeah,
it's cities every 2 squares, basically.
To build that many cities, you're obviously getting Code of Laws, and then you just switch everything to gold and just rush as many settlers as you can.
First step is the domination start.
Yeah.
You get some horses up probably, get across the map quite quickly, gather a little bit of gold, and try and grab some of those caps. With those extra cities, you can now tech Code of Laws nice and quickly. So Alpha, skip writing maybe if you can, Code of Laws. And then you want to get gold and work some forests as much as you can just to get all of that production out to be able to build the settlers, and then explode all over the map.
Are you putting a city pretty much every 2 tiles?
Everywhere that you can get some decent water access, yep.
Yeah.
If you're Egypt or something, you'll find some desert or even, some mountains, some gold and that sort of thing.
And most of our listeners know probably by now, but just to be very explicit, you're not defending these cities.
No.
There's nothing to defend them against.
Yeah, you don't have to take the AI seriously. Once you've expanded out to 10 cities or so, they're not any threat to you anyway. And you've killed 3 of them. There's only one of them left stuck down a peninsula.
Yeah.
Whoever's the easiest to cut off, that's the guy who you're leaving down there, and he's absolutely terrified of you.
The AI actually does behave that way in my experience, is that once you have more than 10 cities and it's still just on one city, it'll just sit there and do nothing. And just sit there building archers forever until the game's over. Just archers. You might have an army over next to him, but the main reason for that is hoping that he's going to pop a settler and you're just going to nab it off of him, get a free city. When you start teching up, are you picking up all the techs or are you just going after choice ones? Like, for example, do you get construction? Do you get literacy? Do you get currency?
Literacy for the +1 tech bonus, because you're going to have 40-odd cities, so it's going to add up to quite a bit each turn. There are a few things like irrigation and democracy you're going to want to delay a little bit until you've got all your cities out, just like you want to delay popping Arca Covenant till then. But then you kind of want your industrialization or so you can really get your gold going. So I'm sort of heading for industrialization and finding a good place for my city and then balancing that with the other goal, which is to get that city with iron working and iron mine up.
You're really getting to industrialization the same way that we are. You build a bazillion cities, and then you switch to democracy. You get banking if you don't have it already. Then you use your scientist on industrialization.
Yeah.
Same basic principles.
Except you want more cities.
Maybe we can get industrialization from art, but you wouldn't bet on that. You'd try and get the GS for it.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're trying to make a big production city so you can build a world bank.
Yep, that's right.
And you start banking hammers because you need 500. How much production? What's your goal there? Is it about 50 or more than that?
Well, let's see.
are you building the world bank in 10 turns or?
Yeah, you're probably building the world bank in about 10 turns, 11 turns, something like that.
Okay.
Give or take. It depends very much on the map. It's just where is the best spot. And then you can count backwards from there to know when the city's got to be built, when it's got to be up with iron mine and so forth in order to get the time that you're targeting.
Right. To come up with the 20,000 gold, I assume you're building markets.
Yep.
Do you find banks to be cost effective?
Most of the time they're not, because you've got plenty of markets to build. I find myself just flick through the 40 or whatever odd cities, and you just look at what the multiples are between how much it costs to build the thing that you're building and how much gold they're making at the moment, and then you can see what the payoff time is for your investment.
Mm-hmm.
If it looks good, then I just go ahead and buy it, and that would be, so I'd have everything set to markets, and then I'll flick them over to banks, and then I'll flick them over to courthouses or whatever else it is in there.
Mm-hmm.
That might get me a little bit more gold, and then just have it there to consider whether it's viable or not.
Do you build many courthouses in pursuit of all this?
Not very often, but every now and then that will become marginally viable.
Okay. What about other gold multipliers like the Colossus or the Trade Fair?
If you've got a city that was exceptionally good, so somehow you're centered on a particular city, then Trade Fair and Colossus can be all right. But most of the time, it's just easier to just pop all those markets around the place.
Going for quantity over quality.
Yeah, quantity over quality.
Does the internet ever come into play?
The internet is very good, yes. If you've got a GS and a GB saved up, so let's say you've targeted invention and a GB producing technology, then you can chuck the two of them together and you'll get the internet, and that'll speed you up by quite a bit.
You could build Oxford University and get networking.
Yeah, or Oxford University off the back of corporation, which is probably, that's probably the better way to do it usually.
So what's a good time for an economic victory?
Well, I mean, it depends very much on the map, and it's like the American game, we were looking at 1200 BC or so. For a normal game, it's probably about 400, 500, 600 AD, depending on whether you're playing the way Kadira does, really accurately, or you're just playing less accurately.
And how long, like real time, does it take you to get through a full playthrough of, say, economic? It seems like it's quite a lot going on each turn.
Yeah, it takes quite a bit of time. Don't normally time myself for these sort of things. You kind of get lost in the game and it kind of flows. But, I mean, I suppose it takes a couple of hours or so to get through a game properly.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the time you'll play the first little section, you realise you're off the pace, and then you just stop and restart again. So you'll have a number of little false starts at the beginning and go, oh gosh, look, I know I was ahead of that this year on the previous game, so stop and have another go.
I'm curious mostly about the expansion phase, because after the Dominion section, that's the next thing to figure out. And if you get that down, if you've expanded well and quickly, then everything else is going to be easy. Just buy the markets, you got the gold, set up the production city, it kind of all just falls into place.
Yep.
Conquered 3 AI, and you've just teched Code of Laws. How many turns are you typically spending expanding? Can you estimate that? Like what might be a start date for that and what might be a finish date? How long does it take to go from, let's say, 5 cities to 50?
Well, it depends really on how fast you can get that gold together. Because what you're going to do is you're going to collect every piece of gold on the map that you can find, and then you're going to set all your cities to production and gold if they can't get production, and you'll be buying settlers every turn that you can with them. So with America, for example, was getting Code of Laws and 2000 and something BC, and by 1200, close to 1200, you're just about ready to win. In other games, you get Code of Laws at a similar sort of time, but you're out in the ADs in terms of when you've got your 500 AD, 600 AD or so.
I think we got what we asked for here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Very good.
This has been another episode of RevCast. I'm your host, elthrasher. With me, Duke Blue 1987 and ScottieX.
Game of the Week Master.
Thanks, guys.
Champion. See you next time.
It seems like it's quite a lot going on each turn.
Yes, it takes... Yeah, it takes quite a bit of time. Yeah. So, they...
But that's one of the fun things about the forum, is that people who are still learning how to play the game are still trying to get a much better time than whatever the 500 AD that they're currently scoring or something like that can come and figure out these secrets.
Yeah, no, that doesn't bother me at all, really.
Right, because you got there first.
I still know I got there first, yes.
more information about RevCast, sibling shows PolyCast and Modcast, or about PolyCast in general, log on to the series' official website at thepolycast.net.
Record date February 24th, 2011.
Civilization Revolution sound clips copyright Take-Two Interactive.
Copyright Civilized Communication at civcom.net.